it's Nick with OYA Knowledge. I'm going to talk about case plans today. Here's the disclaimer. What I'm about to share does not represent the Oregon Youth Authority officially. This is not going to be the official OYA stance on case plans, but it'll be my take on case plans. So hopefully that's worth something to you if you're watching this video. All right, case plans. So I predate JJIS. That means I started working with the agency before JJIS was a thing. And I was involved in the creation of lots of different parts of JJIS and the JJIS case plan. I'll spare you some of those details. Maybe I'll put it in a different video at another time. But just so you know the context of it, that in my history with the agency, I predate JJIS, and I was, as a GLC, asked to provide input that still lives in JJIS and in the JJIS case plan. So there it is. Case plan's pretty straightforward. Everything that a youth does at your facility, or everything that a youth does when they're out in the community, somehow, some way, needs to be reflected in the case plan. That's pretty straightforward. So one way, if you are a case coordinator or a JPBO, somebody who's responsible for a youth's case plan, look at their daily schedule. Look at what they do from the time they get up till the time they go to bed, and look at it categorically. Are they going to school? Are they going to treatment? Are they going to mentoring? All these things that they do should be reflected in the case plan somewhere. Okay? That's about as simple as it is. But not everybody sees it that way. Not everybody executes the case plan that way. So the places that I'm responsible for, I'm pushing those folks along to get that basic understanding. Everything that a kid does during the course of their typical day needs to be reflected in the case plan. So let me talk about case plan from a high level and try to bring it down to a more focused level. And if I need to do more than one parts on this video, I'll do that. So a case plan is a living document, and we use it to present to the youth on the front end when they come into intake. And we use the case plan to kind of forecast what their stay with us is going to be on the facility side of things. So your case plan should be informed. The information that you put in the case plan should come from a file review in JJIS, looking at imported documents, looking at other documents that are stored either in the document section of JJIS or the assessments section of JJIS. Information should come straight from the youth. Information should come from the youth's family, from the youth's JPBO, from the last program or placement that they were at, if you can get a hold of their information, or even call them up and talk to them. But those should be the primary sources of information when you're creating a case plan and maintaining a case plan. Okay? So case plans have domains in them, and that's always a question. Which domains do I open in the case plan? Okay. Somewhere along the way, there was this this kind of established rule that no more than 3 domains should be open. I don't agree with that. Okay, so how many domains do you want to have open? As many as the kid needs. Okay, so if you have a kid that needs 5 domains, but you're operating under this no more than 3, well, then you're cheating the process, and potentially you're cheating the kid. All right. So how many domains? As many as the kid needs. So let's look at your typical domains that are open as the starting point. So it's my belief that every kid needs a life social skills domain open. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Our main point of intervention with kids is skill development. That'll be a whole nother video, right? Because that's a phrase and that's a concept that most people unfortunately do not understand, right? And there's a lot of people who are in charge of managing case plans that do not understand what skill development is, because it's not written in their case plans, right? If they understood it, it would be in the case plan. Okay, so life social skill domain, in my opinion, should be open across the board, okay? And in that domain, in all domains, you should have a well-written problem statement, a well-written strength statement, a applicable long-term goal, and then short-term goals that, when achieved, will move the kid forward in achieving their long-term goal. Okay? Problem statement, strength statement, long-term goal, short-term goal. You'll also want to indicate in every domain the intervention that's going to be used to drive the youth forward in their skill development that's related to the domain that we're talking about, okay? So we're going to stick with life social skills right now. So your problem statement needs to be very specific to the youth, the things that are known to trip that youth up. In specific meaning, they need to call out certain skills or groups of skills. So for example, life social skills, right? This is just fundamental people skills that every person needs, but sometimes kids don't get because of the life that they've led and the care that they've been given and the support that they've received or haven't received prior to coming to us, okay? But keep in mind, given that we are working with 12 to 25-year-olds, right? This is a normal phase of life for kids to develop the necessary skills. So although they're with us in a corrections environment, if they weren't with us and they were in a home somewhere, the task ultimately would be the same, which is how do we interact, invest, and support in this young person so that they develop skills that are age and stage appropriate. Okay, that's what the life social skills domain is all about. So your problem statement, let's say for example, some young people just aren't aware of personal boundaries, right? And they interrupt people and they are persistent to a fault, right? Those are all kind of what we might call boundary skills, right? So let's take that example and think of a problem statement. So Youth Smith struggles with recognizing personal boundaries in other people. Youth Smith also struggles in creating and maintaining his own personal boundaries. Okay? I would accept that as a pretty decent problem statement. Okay? Strength statement. Youth Smith recognizes at times when he violates the boundaries of others, when he encroaches into their personal space. He's willing to work on this area of skill development. Youth Smith enjoys playing board games and likes to read in his free time. Okay? So those are strength statements. What I often see for problem and strength statements are things that are very victim oriented or villain oriented. And what we want is resource oriented. There's a whole nother video. I need to cover the lenses: victim, villain, resource. Okay? So we want resource-based lenses, not victim or villain. So I often hear things like problem statement, youth antagonizes his peers. Okay? So that's a symptom of the problem of not having boundary skills on board. Okay, the symptom of antagonizing peers isn't really the problem. The problem is lagging skill in the area of recognizing, maintaining boundaries in others and boundaries in himself, right, for himself. Okay, so I oftentimes will see symptoms of problems listed as the problem statement, and they don't necessarily capture what the actual problem is. And they definitely don't capture it from a skill development angle. Okay, and then strength statements. I'll read things like youth doesn't have any strengths. I've actually read that in a case plan. Okay, definitely not resource or lens there. Okay, strength statements. Youth won't bite or scratch when he's in a fight. Okay, and I get it that people haven't been trained or mentored through case planning, right? And so even though some of these things may sound shocking and extreme, they're actually things that I've read in case plans, right, as I review them. And I don't want to blame people for it, because I know that they just haven't been trained and mentored through how to develop quality content for a case plan. So just know that. I get it. Which is why I'm taking the effort to do things like this, like OYA knowledge, right? Which is why I've ran small workshops for case coordinators at McLaren, so that they can at least get some exposure to what I think is quality content in a case plan. Okay, so we're going to go on this continue on with this theme, right? Life social skills domain. We have a problem statement. We have a strength statement now, and then you got to pick an applicable long-term goal. I don't have those solidified in my memory right now, so I won't pretend to be able to pick one out. But honestly, just pick one that seems to match what you're seeing in the kid and what the need is. Pro tip: you can write your own long-term goal. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, you can do that. You can go drop down other and then write your own goal in. More than okay to do that. But then short-term goals. Okay, I like to have 1 to 3 short-term goals. Leave that up to you, depending on who the kid is and what they can handle in every domain. Okay, and those short-term goals are on the order of 90 days. So again, with this boundaries theme, let's talk about short-term goals. So Youth Smith will write out 10 reasons why respecting the boundaries of others is important. Okay, so that could be a short-term goal. Another short-term goal would be Youth Smith will identify 3 external boundaries that most people will want respected. Okay, so he's going to identify 3 things that, regardless of who the person is that he's with, are going to have as general expectations for how they want to be treated. Okay, that's a short-term goal. Another short-term goal would be youth will learn a set of pro-social skills as taught and modeled through the Nexus curriculum, for example, or ART, or New Directions, whatever you want to be, because all of that stuff, another pro tip, all of that stuff teaches this exact same thing. It just has a different package on it. Okay, and I guarantee you, all of those interventions that we use, ART, COB, New Directions, Nexus, doesn't matter what it is, some part of that is going to focus on boundaries. Guaranteed. But if you don't know your kid and the fact that they need boundary skills, and you don't know the interventions that you are signing them up for, then you won't make those connections, right? But it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Okay, 3 short-term goals. What about SMART goals, Nick? Wow, what about SMART goals? Okay, specific, measurable, attainable. What's the R? I can't remember. Time sensitive. Reachable, I think, is the no, that's attainable. SMART. Realistic. Okay, there it is. That's good. SMART goals are good, but here's even better. Make your goals artifact-based. This is what I teach my counseling students, okay? Where's the evidence? The evidence is show them that it happened versus it didn't happen, right? So when we say he's going to write out 10 reasons why respecting the boundaries of others is the thing to do, right? How do I know if he did it? Well, you can produce the written statement of 10 reasons why respecting other people's boundaries is a good thing, okay? Right, so a little bit of brain fog there. So make your short-term goals artifact-based. Pretty simple. He's in Nexus, did he get a Nexus certificate? He's in ART, did he get an ART certificate? If he's supposed to be learning specific skills from a specific intervention, your summary could be youth completed this goal by participating in sessions 3, 15, and 24 in New Directions, which focused on developing boundary skills for self and others. Okay, there it is. Check attendance roster. Yep, he was there for those session dates and learned those skills. Okay, artifact based. Another thing that's in there is competencies in your case plan. So every domain has competencies that you pick, right? And you're supposed to rate them every 90 days in your MBTs. Do not automatically pick 5s as the target competency. Yep, you heard that. Do not automatically pick 5s as the target competency. We get kids with all kinds of varying abilities to function, right? At McLaren, we have kids that are coming to us straight from developmentally disordered group homes. They should not have 5s as their target rating for competencies. Okay, don't do it. If your current assessment of them is a 0, 1, or 2, make your target rating for them for the next 90 days a 3 or a 4. Okay, your higher functioning kids, right? Okay, put 4s or 5s, but by default, what I see in case plans is everybody's competency target is a 5. Okay, we can do better than that. Make the target what it needs to be for that kid. Talk about SMART goals, realistic and attainable. Okay, for some of those kids, having 5s isn't realistic or attainable for the time being. Now it may be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, I don't know. But I guarantee at the point of intake, for some of these kids that struggle, 5 just isn't where it's at. Okay, and you actually are putting a ding on the system by doing that, and meaning that that's a data point, that's a metric that things like the youth reformation system are pulling info from to determine how well we are at meeting our own targets, right? So when you set that target up as a 5 for that kid that really struggles, and every month he doesn't make progress in that competency, you're sending data to the system saying our system isn't effective with that kid. Okay, just want you to know that. You may not think when you're clicking the boxes in a case plan that it has a ripple effect that is impacting the overall system, but it is, right? And when you look at 1,000 kids that have case plans open and active with competencies, that's where the ripple effect gets compounded. Okay, all right, back up again. Case plan. Everything that a kid is doing on a daily basis should be reflected in the case plan. How many domains do you need open? As many as the kid needs. Typically that's going to be life social skills domain, education domain, and more times than not a either offense specific domain or a vocation domain. Those are usually the domains that you have open. Some kids that have families that are intact or are willing to participate, you may open up a family domain, right? And especially if you're going to have some kind of family intervention, family counseling, family therapy, yeah, you better have a family domain open. If you have a kid that has a significant medical issue, say diabetes, or we've had young men with cancer, recovering from major surgeries, you probably need to have a medical domain open, right? Where you are tracking what it is that the kid is up against, right, or needing to do medically in order to develop, right, develop age and stage appropriately and develop the skills necessary, right? Because if there's an organic issue going on, that could be impeding the kid's overall skill development. And so we need to have that reflected in the case plan as well. Again, that's an exception. That's not always the case, right? So which domains? Probably life social skills. Substance abuse is another common one. Education, vocation. In addition to that, you might see family and you might see medical. Okay, offense specific. Okay, your RNA will also tell you pretty specifically which domains to have open. Okay, so in the case plan, I don't have a screenshot to show you. Maybe in another video I'll do that. But go to your RNA report, click graph 2. It'll open up an Excel spreadsheet and pull the RNA data in graph form and look at graph 2. Graph 2 will show you all the skill areas that are known to be criminogenic, the deficits in those areas that were likely the factors that led this kid to penetrate as far as he did or she did into the juvenile justice system. That's what the RNA is there for, right? Use it. Graph 2 RNA, it'll tell you which domains to have open. Depending on how savvy you are with the skills that are called out in the RNA, you may be able to know which interventions are on board in the agency to help a kid develop skills in that area, and you use that info to collaborate with the kid and family through the MDT to get buy-in and agreement for programming and treatment. Okay. That's rarely a process that I see people using graph 2 and the RNA to really get buy-in from the youth and the family about the programming that they're going to be offered and expected to do. But it's there. It's been there since day one. Been there for at least 15 years. I rarely come across somebody who hasn't been linked to me somehow that has any idea what I'm talking about when I say RNA graph 2. But it's there. So much there in JJIS that we don't tap into in a meaningful way. Case plans. What else do I want to say about case plans for this video? We're at the 22-minute mark, and I like to keep these to about a half hour. Let's see. Kind of linking into my GLC primary OYA knowledge video I did a while back. You can go check that one out. But this is where your primary notes are super helpful to people like JPPOs and case coordinators as they're summarizing for MDTs or doing monthly summaries, right? The input that GLCs are putting into the case plan or into notes, super helpful when somebody is, has the responsibility of using words in JJIS to capture the progress that a young person has made, right? Your primary GLC input, super valuable there. Another reason why case plans are super important, that if we're crystal clear on the short-term goals that a kid is working on every 90 days, you can actually set up a hot button key in JJIS, okay? And then go up to, I think it's File, My User Notebook, Hotkeys, and then you can set up a function key on your keyboard. Let's say function 2, right? So you can link case plan short-term goal list with function 2, highlight a kid's name in the roster, hit F2, and it will automatically build a short-term goal list coming out of the case plan in one keystroke. Boom. Right? That's the big complaint about JJIS, is how many thousands of keystrokes that it takes to get to one certain area. Well, use your My Worker notebooks to set up your hotkeys. Set up hotkeys that make sense for the work that you do on a regular basis. Push the button, short-term goal list comes up, right? Hey, Youth Smith, what are you supposed to be working on? I don't know. Oh, let's go print out your short-term goal list. Bzz. Oh, it looks like your last MBT, this is the things that you agreed upon to be working on. Yeah. Okay. Well, what's one thing you can work on today? I don't know. Well, let's pick one of these things, one of these short-term goals. and let's figure out how you can get better at that today. Okay, right? If you had this hammered, if every kid in the agency had quality short-term goals, any staff could have a meaningful conversation with them, right? And have a targeted conversation on what they're supposed to be working on, what their goals are, and how it's related to moving them on to the next phase in their stay with us. Okay, that's a big if. That's if we get short-term goals in the case plan to a high value point. Now they're there sometimes, right? But they're not there across the board. All right, so that's 25 minutes. I'm trying to think what else I want to bring to you in terms of case plans. Don't be fooled by the case plan report. Okay, the case plan report really only checks for a couple of things. It checks for one active long-term goal, and it checks for your competency ratings being up to date according to your 90-day periods. That's about it, right? So you can literally, and I've seen this, right? You see people who's pride themselves in their case plan report showing 100%, but you can literally have gobbledygook in a case plan and get that 100% because it's not looking for content value. It's just looking for making sure that the right dates in there and the right boxes are checked. That's it. Okay? So don't be fooled by that case plan report. It's important, but yeah, in terms of content, it's not telling you anything about what's in your case plan. Okay? Some other things that are important. Make sure that you open and close your interventions that are specific to the domains that you're working with. Okay? Like, for example, ART. When a kid starts ART, open up the intervention, and when he's done with ART or leaves the facility, close it. Okay, because that's something that research then can use. They can, when it's open and closed appropriately, the research can say how many kids are getting ART, how many kids got ART, of the kids that started ART, how many finished. But if you don't open and close the intervention, our data quality drops off tremendously. Okay. So making sure that you're using an intervention in every domain or multiple interventions, if that's the case, and making sure that you open and close them as the youth progresses is important. Huge for our own data collection. Okay, you may not know, but you should know that OYA has the luxury of having its own data team, own research team, and we are able to create a feedback loop in terms of our effectiveness that's somewhere on the average of 3 to 5 years, and that's incredible because in our field of social sciences, right, the feedback loop is like 20 years. So the things that are emerging now as best practice won't hit textbooks and won't hit students' knowledge for about 20 years. Now that might be different given how fast the technology is moving things now. We may be looking at a 10-year clip in terms of what's best practice now hitting textbooks and hitting universities and whatnot. We might be at a 10-year feedback loop, but what I'm telling you is within OYA we have the potential of a 3 to 5 year feedback loop, which is unheard of, right? But it really depends on folks that are managing case plans to open and close interventions in one part of it. So, all right, so super excited to be doing these videos. I talked to some folks the other day at McLaren, and they were excited for it as well. And here's the thing, if you find value in this video, this case plan video, let me know in a comment. And if you have other things that you want to know about the case plan, because obviously I can't hit it all in one video, I'm willing to do more installments of this. So I'll call this one Case Plan Part 1. But if you have specific questions about the case plan and what it's all about and how to create and maintain it, let me know, and I'm happy to either do an entire video on that or incorporate your question into a future video and provide my response. All right, so I'll leave it there, just about at the half-hour mark for this. I think that's a good time frame for setting up these videos. This is Nick with OYA Knowledge, and I'm encouraging you folks to boost your knowledge in these areas, right? That's one way to get where you want in your career, is making sure your knowledge is on point. All right, take care.